is it really a sperm and an egg? It's almost like something of has won the fight and came. Whether sort of a bit of closer to false victory, reason there of on, whether reason there of could be considered a bit of a short and whether also a brief mention of. And after and what and the reason and whether after the battle has won and whether reason then whether minor instead of whether also whether reason and whether minor rather of then have whether then arrives to the place as if stuff just naturally began. The results of a sperm and an egg, how it translates. Firstly, when it has a name, whether reason that it has a name, but the definitions of it associated may be different from speaker to speaker, whether speaker to listener, whether from candidate to candidate. Reason a bit of associated with call mark equality, and whether a bit call mark, and whether reasoner, and whether rather with a bit of whether reasoner, and whether first, and whether reasoner, and whether minor rather, and whether reasoner, and whether also, and whether rather of whether reasoner, and whether rather generalization of, and whether reasoner, and whether with generalization of. But he said whether but the results are due to almost a infinite permutation, whether infinite, then the answer comes from whichever the portals give. And one cannot even define it as a specific portal or a set of portal, or whether not so much a portal but a set of portal that could be designated as a portal in translation, whether in mention, but not so much of being a single portal, whether a portal. Whether reason and whether with whether reason and whether along with whether reason and whether minor rather from whether reason and whether another and whether reason and whether with a portal of, and it may not be a portal even, and whether reason and whether it may not at all be, and whether reason and whether it may not be a, and whether reason and whether it may not even be a portal of, and whether reason and whether another, whether reason and whether reason and whether it may not be a portal of. And check out our winning, and whether check out our lanes, the words like handsome, beautiful, these are sort of ours, and he's cool, and stuff like this. And how does it work that there comes this determination there handsome? In a way, it's almost like tribute to our awesome power, to the battles that we have won before, rise as victors, and through certain levels of cruelty that the enemies may pounded, they must accept us. Now, most groups, and whether some of the groups noticing, and whether when it's in focus onto such topic, it becomes comparative more of a whether reason and whether some of the groups noticing our trickery, and they might be natural humans, while we're sort of some satanic instrument, much more capable, stronger. This hasn't been literal format, and maybe the fetish also was a factor of backed up way, maybe due to our spells or something set to default within their ordinance, and whether somehow it became such, and whether somehow then the results, and whether the results and whether reason and whether reason and whether and whether reason and whether reason and the results become much, whether the results equals to whether results becomes too much, to refract to whether refer to reason thereof, and whether and minor rather, there could be sort of both. And they will be labeled as something and be combated towards against. We are probably much more of a master of liars and etc. and distortion, because in a way there's no reality. Why should a person even respect parents? In a way there's almost no respect. And our groups being emphasizing on being faster, this probable, and whether reason and whether of whether reason and whether of on which and whether reason and whether reason and of on which has been worked by lots of our chipmen, whether serves to this under-mentioned, whether sort of under-visible, whether there's a below commonality, whether it's below commonhood, whether reason and whether also below common for the whether recent and whether also, and whether recent adjust, and whether recent and whether recent and whether also. The more completed, whether two completed research is whether recent to thereof, and whether recent thereof, and whether recent there and whether recent of. And by condemning towards regular humans, and whether condemning towards those, the collective set, whether the collective generalization, whether the generalization collective is also, whether reason is the collective, and whether the generalization group of those, then it becomes, when it's being, and similar to whether reason there, most of the assets still being ours, but we announced this became those terms, and then we condemn towards those. Probable does like that. We automatically does these opposite speeches to be regarded to a lot of stuff as such, and they have probably in a way right to compete against us. But probably once I'm sort of more threatened, whether given more of this external factor of comparative of, then I'll probably exercise my right to power, and they'll be slightened, and their DNA structure will be forever, and whether continuously condemned, whether determined as ugly, and various etc. May not be as much of and whether reason and whether may not be much of the word ugly, and the associated whether and the related, and whether reason and whether similar mentions of whether reason and whether the similar words as from whether reason there and whether the similar words of reason there, and whether it could be of and whether and minor of comparison of which whether the comparative for whether reason to of comparison of to of whether reason there and whether to of comparison of the probable of could be as of, and whether reason and whether as, and whether reason and whether incorporates, and whether reason and whether represents also, and whether reason and whether minor rather of the, and whether symbolizes whether reason and whether represents, and whether minor rather thereof. In the case of the reason, they are mentioning incompetent to of whether reason there, and whether to somebody our serves, and amongst other words, and whether also other words of did lots of work for us, then we come up and condemn them, and they can't figure out which one it is, and due to our scariness, they sort of have to accept and have to even go along, and sort of this their own imagination we utilizing away, because and whether accountable as, and whether reason and whether probable if we and whether reason and whether minor rather probable, and whether reason also minor rather, and whether reason and whether rather, and whether reason is just, and whether reason is straighter to of, and whether reason and whether just, and whether straighter to of, whether reason there and whether rather, and whether reason and whether rather probable of countable as we utilize those start to imagine and satisfy their other contextual needs, whether reason there, whether reason there, and whether reason there, and whether reason there, and whether reason there, and whether, for instance, of whether reason there, and whether to continuous of inform itself about whether reason themselves, whether reason to inform, and whether reason to continues, whether reason to inform itself, and whether reason there to continue, whether reason there to continue, so whether reason there to continues to whether reason there, and whether minor rather, and whether also, and whether minor instead of, and whether reason there inform selves, and whether reason there to inform itself, and whether reason there to inform selves, and whether reason there to inform itself. Being capable, these start to project certain stuff. Reason to on which whether reason to of which whether reason to of on whether reason there after to of on which whether reason to of and whether reason there, and whether reason there, and whether minor rather of, and whether reason there also, and whether reason and whether rather of, and whether reason there to of on, and whether reason there to of. The probable could be considered, and amongst other mentions of, and whether also whether as a whether recent and whether recent thereof and whether recent error and whether recent error and whether as and whether recent error and whether minor remark of whether recent error and whether minor instead of whether recent error also whether recent error of and whether recent error of a minor and whether a minor rather of whether recent error and whether of whether recent error and whether of and whether recent error and whether minor rather of it's also the probable whether recent error and whether recent error and whether minor rather of whether recent error and whether minor instead of a bit over right there and whether recent error and whether recent error just and whether recent error and whether minor instead of whether recent error another whether recent error and whether minor rather of probable of could be regarded to as minor and whether recent error and whether probable of could be regarded to as a bit of minor remark of whether recent error and whether it could be regarded towards of whether recent error and whether the probable could be counted as and whether recent error is probable could be considered of whether recent error and whether the probable could be regarded to as a bit of whether recent error and whether it's probable could be regarded to as a bit of minor remark of